How about we bust some myths that are going on in the marketplace right now? This is Talk to Trev 2022. It is October, and there is a lot of nonsense going on in the market, and a lot of people talking about stuff, making things up, talking through things that may not necessarily be true. Myth number one that I'd like to bust is now is not a good time to buy. I tell you what, if you as a buyer like being able to negotiate lower prices, like being able to ask for concessions, like being able to ask the seller to buy your rate down, like being able to ask for repairs, like being able to purchase at a lower price, then this is a really good time for you. If you don't like any of that stuff, don't buy. Then it's not a good time. However, the con is you're paying a higher interest rate. But you get to negotiate price down, you get to negotiate repairs, you get to negotiate potential appraisal shortfalls, you get to negotiate as a buyer. So myth number one, that now is a bad time to buy, busted. Myth number two, now is a bad time to be a seller. Well, hey, for all the things that you just heard in myth number one being busted, maybe you could say, well, gosh, it sounds like sellers are getting beaten up. However, sellers, especially if you bought in the last 3, 4, 5, 6, 10, 15, 20 years, you've seen a massive run up in your price. So, okay, you may see that you're not going to be able to earn what you could have earned if you sold it in February. However, there's tons of opportunity for you as a seller. If you're someone that prices correctly, if you're someone who is willing to negotiate and you realize, hey, I may have to give a little. I may have to give a little to the buyer to buy their rate down. I may have to negotiate repairs. I may have to flex and bend a little bit, but I've got this big bucket of cash tied up in my home and I'm willing to release it with a little bit of cost. Well, now is a good time to be a seller. Now is a great time to be a seller if you're one of those sellers who needs to sell your home in order to buy. So the myth out there that now is a bad time to be a seller just isn't correct. You look at market dynamics and market forces and we're pretty balanced. Yeah, I think buyers have the edge right now. Yeah, they can come in and squeeze sellers. But if you go into it as a seller and you know, hey, I'm gonna get squeezed a little bit, but there's plenty of juice for everyone, now is a really good time because you have the flexibility to go turn around, take the liquidity that you receive from selling your home and apply it to another house and go to your seller and go, hey, I need to sell my house in order to buy yours. So tons of opportunity out there as a seller. Don't believe the hype. Don't believe the myths that it's a bad time. It could be the perfect time for you. But these are all situations that we should talk about. Let's have a discussion. Let's talk about the totality of your situation to see if now really is a good time for you. The third myth that I'd like to bust deals with financing, deals with interest rate, deals with down payment. We hear all the time, oh my gosh, interest rates are too high. I can't afford it. Oh my gosh, I don't have the 20% down to put on a home. Well, guess what? The average down payment amount that people place on a home is 6% across the board, 6%. So you don't need 20%. That myth is busted and should be busted and should forever be kicked out of the lexicon of people who are thinking about buying. Secondarily, interest rate. Yeah, we're seeing them bump up against 7%. But does that mean you have to take the rack rate as a buyer and go, well, I guess I'm just going to buy a house at 7%? No, we get to negotiate. As I discussed in point one, myth one, and myth two, you as a buyer gets to negotiate. You can buy your own rate down. You can ask the seller to contribute. You can ask the seller to contribute to a 2-1 buy down. Don't know what that is. You probably heard me talk about it a little bit before. Call me, we'll talk about it. I'll introduce you to some lenders who can talk to you about all these vehicles. We're also seeing a resurgence in ARMs. Oh my gosh, adjustable rate mortgages, bad word. Not really. You think about a 7-1 ARM and you get half a point lower interest rate before you buy it down, or a full point lower than a 30-year fix. 7-1, think about that. For 7 years, the interest rate is fixed, and then every year thereafter, it can adjust. In 7 years, I bet we're gonna have lower interest rates. Talk to the experts, do your own research, but if you look at what economists are talking about, interest rates are going to go down. They are rising, and the Fed is raising the Fed funds rate, which isn't directly correlated with mortgage rates, but they are raising the rate to get inflation under control. And once inflation's under control, the economy is probably going to be not operating real well, and the only lever that they have to pull at that point is to lower interest rates. And when that happens, we're going to see a cascade across the economic environment, and we are going to see interest rates lower. You think that's going to take 7 years? I doubt it. So do most economists. They doubt it. So do most analysts. They doubt it. So if you can save yourself half a point right off of the rack and do an adjustable rate mortgage that is amortized over 30 years, everything looks and feels like a 30-year mortgage, but the expectation is that you're going to refinance at some point, then go do it. Now, buyer beware, be cautious about it. It may not, we can't predict mortgage rates, right? I'd love to tell you, date the rate, marry the house. Rates may not come down. Historically, they're going to come down. You look at it, you study it, at some point they're going to come down. If I'm a betting man and I'm out there buying a house, I'm going to go with a 7-1 ARM. I'm going to get myself a lower rate. I'm going to wait for rates to go back down within that 7-year period, and I'm going to refinance into something more permanent. So I hope this myth busting session was instructive and helpful for you. If you have any other things that you've been hearing, questioning, seeing, feeling, and you want to talk about them, please give me a call. I can be reached at 602-595-4200. DM me, message me, email me, yell at me, tell me I'm full of it, whatever. I love having these discussions, so let's talk.